All right, a happy Sunday and happy early Valentine's Day to you as well. Welcome to ABC24 This Week. I'm Richard Ransom along with Otis Sanford, bringing you the real story behind this week's big stories. Here's what we'll be talking about today. In a moment, the president and CEO of the Memphis-Shelby County Airport Authority, Scott Brockman, will be joining us. Between ice storms and a brand new $245 million concourse, it is a busy couple of weeks for what many argue is ground zero for Memphis's economic engine. Later, we'll talk more about the ice storm, its effect on our community, and how everyone from MLGW to Tennessee's governor reacted to it. And State Senator Katrina Robinson may be ousted from the state Senate, but her departure has been anything but quiet, and federal prosecutors have noticed. We'll get to all of that in a moment, but first we want to bring in Scott Brockman. As I mentioned, he's the chairman and president of the Memphis-Shelby County Airport Authority, a big job to have, especially in a city like Memphis. We'll let Otis ask the first question.
Hey, hello, Scott, and it's great to see you again, and I hope you can hear me well. You know, it's been since August of 2019 that I've been on an airplane, unfortunately, because of COVID. But I do plan to fly this spring. For people like me who have not been at the airport, what are the couple of things that we will see as we go through this new concourse that will pretty much knock our socks off?
Well, first of all, everyone who travels from Memphis International will be on the same concourse. And the designation of A, B, and C next Wednesday will go away. It'll just be 1 through 23 on what was formerly the B concourse. I think what you will find is just the pure volume of space. It is truly a grand concourse from a standpoint of size, high ceilings, the windows. One of the things you will notice is the windows are smart windows, and so they will tint based upon the side of the building that the sun is on and the amount of ambient light and ultraviolet rays that are coming through. And so it's truly a smart building, and I think you will just be amazed at the clear lines of sight and the grandeur of the space that you're going into.
From restaurants to moving sidewalks, maybe some of the other upgrades that people will notice when they use the concourse for the first time, Scott.
Well, we do have a lot of new amenities that we did not have before. The moving walkways will get you most of the way, all the way to the end of the east leg of the concourse. We have increased technology, and so you will have much better Wi-Fi when you're in the building. We've replaced all of the equipment, so all of the seating is new, and there are not only outlets at every seat, there are USB plugs for your electronic devices, both USB A and C, and there are surface-mounted chargers on the armrest of all of the seats in the whole rooms. We have increased workstation for those people that are traveling and working while on business, so they can have a comfortable place to sit and work. And there is a tremendous amount of just fabulous local art on display in the concourse. We have spent in excess of $1 million. Probably, I would tell you 99% of that money went locally. And I think you will find that the artwork is just stunning.
You know, one advantage, I'm not breaking any news here, but when you have a hub, you can get a nonstop flight to just about anywhere. You are able, though, from Memphis, get to most major cities from Memphis right now. And as a consumer, I like the fact that there's a little more competition, and the fares are a lot more reasonable than they might have been when we had a hub. And it seems like very frequently you're announcing there's a new nonstop to somewhere. And I just wonder, with this new concourse, do you sometimes wish you had added a few more gates, or do you see a point in the not too distant future where you will have outgrown the new facility?
Well, when we designed the new facility, one of the things that we did was convert all of the technology to what's referred to as a common use gate assignment system. So really all 23 of the gates will be able to be utilized by any carrier at any time. And while we will have gates that are quote unquote preferentially assigned to our airline partners, they will operate out of a home base. There are capabilities to utilize those gates more frequently than we ever have before. And we believe that will give us more time until we need to increase the number of gates by expanding into the west leg of the concourse.
I was going to ask you
Well,
to anticipate, when do you anticipate that happening, given your current growth rate, and where would you grow out from? Would you add to the current concourse, or would you bring in one of the old concourses back or something?
Well, right now, the B concourse, if you remember, had a spine and an east and a west leg that formed the Y. The modernization that will open on Tuesday night will be the spine and the east leg. The west leg has not been modernized and is not open for passengers on a regular basis today. That piece of the concourse, the west leg, will be the next expansion point to increase gates, and we believe we can add 9 or 10 more gates on that leg of the concourse. But I think that based upon forecasts that were recently done as part of our master plan, that the concourse as we have today, that we will open next week, should be able to handle the passenger growth we've predicted for the next nominally 10 to 15 years. We believe we can grow at least somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50%, maybe a little more, on the existing gates that we have, the 23 that we will open on Tuesday night of next week.
And Richard mentioned other cities. We in Memphis love to compare ourselves to Nashville. But with this new upgrade, this new remodeling of this concourse, what cities would Memphis compare favorably now with this airport?
Well, I think you will find that this concourse will compare favorably to pretty much any concourse in the system now. We've been doing tours before the grand opening of various groups, and the one resounding comment that we continue to hear is Memphis now has a true international airport. We now have a true welcome to our community. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that people will notice when they come in is, wow, this is really a beautiful airport. And I think it elevates the game for the community. It elevates the game for the airport. And hopefully it will drive more economic growth, of which the airport is proud to be a very large contributor to.
So we are talking about a wow factor here,
Yeah,
with this airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us how this is going to unveil itself next week. What's the plan
I'm
in
sorry?
terms of how is this all going to unfold next week, the grand opening, and what have you planned surrounding that?
Well, we will have the grand opening will occur at 5 o'clock on Tuesday with the board of directors, other local dignitaries, invited guests. There will obviously be speeches, presentations, and a ribbon cutting that will occur somewhere around 5:30 on Tuesday. The first arrival into the concourse will be 6:18 p.m. on Tuesday night. And all aircraft that are going to stay overnight on Tuesday night will come in to the new concourse. And all flights on Wednesday will depart from the new concourse. The logistical challenge is having the two other concourses, A and C, still have active flights coming in and going back out while we are opening the B concourse, or the old B concourse. And so it's a little bit of a logistic headache, but our team has done a great job. And by 6:15 Tuesday night, the concourse will be open to the public, and anyone that is traveling can go into the concourse. They will not depart from the concourse Tuesday night, but if someone has a later night departure Tuesday night, they can go into the concourse, can walk around and look at it while they're traveling.
All right, very good. It sounds exciting. We're excited to see it and actually use it. I think it's more than past due, and I'm glad that we're going to have something we can be proud of. That's great.
Well, our tagline is "Take off with us," and so I want you to book a ticket, Richard. And Otis, you definitely are overdue. Book a ticket and come out and try the facility out as a traveler, because I think you're going to love it.
All right.
All right, looking forward. Thank you, Scott Brockman, President and CEO of the Memphis-Shelby County Airport Authority, for joining us, talking about the brand new concourse opening up next week. We're going to take a break. Be joined by my panelists. We're going to have Brad Broders, ABC24 reporter, and political consultant Susan Adler Thorp right after this.
A taxi driver T-boned my car and tried to talk his way out of it. The taxi's insurance guy was rude and even shadier. Sorry, man. Facts are facts. You hit me, so I got Mike Montesi, and Mike got me respect fast.
Insurance companies want to pay you the minimum. I demand the maximum. I'm attorney Mike Montesi. We've won our clients over $500 million.
It's easy with Montesi.
With Montesi, I won big.
One call, that's all.
Call 526-2126.
Love is in the air, and ABC24 wants to help you share it. Send a message to your sweetheart to 901-321-7520. We'll share those sweetheart shout-outs in our newscast, Valentine's Week on ABC24.
A drunk driver hit us head on. I am so glad that one of my family members told me to call the Reeves Law Firm. The jury awarded us $1.8 million.
If you or a loved one have been seriously injured, call us immediately. Let us be your voice.
Celebrate Memphis this Black History Month with ABC24. We want to know who's made a difference in your life. Who's your hero? Or maybe it's just somebody who's made a positive influence on your life. To share your story and connect with us, just text 901-321-7520. And who knows, we just might feature your story in one of our newscasts. Celebrate Memphis and Black History all February long with ABC24.
Sponsored by the Red Wing Group.
As we mentioned from time to time, we record this program on Friday afternoons. So as this airs on Sunday, hopefully all of you were able to watch us. All of you have your power back on and things are somewhat returning back to normal. But it has been quite a few days where a lot of folks did not have electricity, did not have heat. They're tired. They're not happy, and one of them is with us. Several of them are actually with us today. I want to introduce my panel. We have Susan Adler Thorp, a political consultant, and ABC24 reporter Brad Broders. So Susan, I'm going to start with you, and we know that you are a frequent critic of MLGW, and you were probably not the person that they should have had without power for 8 days or 9 days. But nonetheless, that was your experience. And just as you look at it objectively, what's your biggest frustration in how this was handled?
And how was it what?
And how this was handled by MLGW.
Well, you know, it's probably not the optimal time for me to be commenting on MLGW since it's Friday afternoon and my power hasn't been on for 24 hours. So, you know, it's hard for me to look at it objectively right now, as it is for so many people in this community, and those who are still there are plenty out. But you know, I look back on Light, Gas, and Water, and I remember that maybe in 2019, they had a study done that said that the number one reason for outages in our community is trees. The number one. And that Light, Gas, and Water should be on a 3-year tree trimming cycle, but they were only on a 5-year trimming cycle. And that year, they told the city council that they were already 1 year behind in trimming trees. I mean, we're going to continue to fall behind. It's just amazing to me that Light, Gas, and Water brags that they're doing the best they can do, and at the same time, they brag about having low rates when the rates don't include, apparently, money needed to trim the trees. And then they whine and tell us that they need more money so they can rebuild the infrastructure when most of the outages are caused by trees. Where's the resolve? Where's the resolution?
It was interesting, Brad, they took to Twitter, MLGW did, in kind of a snarky way, to be honest about it, saying, look, we tried for 3 years to get city council to pass some more money for us to spend on infrastructure so these kinds of things could be avoided in response to all the criticism that they were getting. Yet they also kind of avoided all the studies that have been done where there have been opportunities by independent people to be more efficient. They have described MLGW as a bloated utility with a lot of people they don't need and a lot of wasted opportunity there. So as you see how this has unfolded, your thoughts about the reaction from the utility, because they seemed to really have their defensive posture up, shall we say.
Yeah, I asked them about this on Monday during their daily news conferences earlier this week as this kept going and going. And, you know, they kind of had a mixed message of sorts. They kind of were saying two things at the same time. They said, yes, we are in year 3 of this 5-year infrastructure plan. They reminded folks that the city council had delayed some of these improvements from potentially starting earlier, but then they also said we're only in year 3. None of these improvements are complete. I know Susan just mentioned about the tree trimming. They did say that tree trimming was an emphasis as part of this 5-year plan, but a lot of criticism from MLGW, tens of thousands of people impacted in the last week, including some of the poorest pockets of the city. Fraser hit especially hard, Parkway Village, parts of East Memphis. I was lucky, but I know folks around me on my neighborhood Facebook page were not, and it's adding up. There's frustrations from the city council members. We're going to hear it next week at committee, MLGW committee, led by Chase Carlisle. That's going to be some fireworks likely. There's going to be a lot of hard questions asked. Then you also have council member Patrice Robinson, who is a former MLGW employee, saying they're doing the best they can. So even among the city council, there's divisions, but a lot of the public demanding accountability, including the city council.
And Otis, it seems like it comes up every time there's an ice storm.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we bury some of these power lines and have more underground power lines that won't be susceptible to ice storms? Because Memphis is going to have an ice storm, if not every winter, probably every 2 or 3 years. And we go through this time and time again. JT Young says, well, that may be more aesthetically pleasing, but we forget that the underground lines have a shorter lifespan. They have about a 30-year lifespan versus the above ground lines. And I'm like, well, yeah, true, as long as those above ground lines aren't hit by an ice storm. Then, you know, it's kind of an interesting way of putting it. And it was an interesting, I don't want to say rift, but a difference of opinion, shall we say, between the mayor, who said, hey, we need to look at this and chip away at having more underground lines and try to build that out, and the CEO of the utility really resistant to that.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened last week, Richard. I understand, or the mayor said that they had a conversation earlier in the week last week, but they were not on the same page here. The mayor was saying, Mayor Strickland was saying, yes, it's time to have that conversation again about putting more of the power lines than we have now underground. Then JT Young came out and said, well, that's untenable. That's the word he used. It's untenable. Let's not have that conversation. It costs too much money. There was even differences of amounts for how much it would cost. The mayor said about $3 billion. Mr. Young said about $6 billion. So they're not on the same page with that. I mean, the point here is people are tired of this. I mean, I looked at Susan's face there. She's still not happy. And a lot of other people are in that same boat. And if you're telling me that the underground lines will only last about 30 years, I think there are a lot of people in this community who say, I'll take the 30 years. Now, the question is, again, the cost and whether that will call for a huge rate increase. Let's have that conversation. Let's also have the conversation about federal infrastructure dollars that should come into Memphis to help this, because if there was ever an infrastructure need, this is it. And we need to have those conversations. I'm sorry, Mr. Young, you're off base on that. Let's talk about this.
Well, Brad, supporters of doing more with infrastructure and maybe putting in these underground lines have said, we can help solve this money problem, and it's reigniting this debate over whether we should leave the TVA and maybe use the savings from that, if that bears fruit and proves to be true once this RFP process is done, and look into that as a way to help shave the cost of this for MLGW and actually make some progress.
Yeah, and Richard, following up on Otis's point just a second ago, it was really striking to me on Monday morning when I interviewed Mayor Strickland, and he told me that, I mean, he went out of his way to make a point of we need to really look at this. But like Otis mentioned, the devil's in the details. Are people willing to pay for more in rates to fund more of this? Now, obviously, it's not going to be all underground at the same time, all at once. Right. But Mayor Strickland very forcefully saying we need to focus more on more underground lines. 40% currently are underground, JT Young said. But they argue it would take longer to repair underground lines. Now, to follow up on what you just asked me, certainly this fills the vacuum of the alternate energy proposals, the estimate of potentially saving $450 million. I mean, you look at this last week. This time last year, not only did we have that deep freeze, we had the water main issues. It's been a really tough back-to-back Februarys for MLGW. And a lot of people are wondering, how can a winter storm knock out power for a week? And I have to reemphasize the poverty in Memphis. I spoke with folks in the poorest neighborhoods that Friday morning last week, freezing cold, really struggling, really heartfelt. You can't feel just emotions and frustrations for those individuals.
Yeah.
Well, you know, no lights this year, no water last year. Pretty soon we're going to have to call it M&W, the way things are going. Look, one quick thing. I don't want to, we're running long on this segment, but Governor Bill Lee taking some heat as well for the way he responded or has not responded to this situation in Memphis. And I did some research on this, made a comparison to how he responded to the tornadoes that hit Middle Tennessee in mid-December. The very next day he was on the ground. He had called President Biden. 2 days later, the declaration of a disaster had been made and money was ready to flow out. The power outages between Memphis and the Middle Tennessee situation, very much the same, 150 versus 140,000. The number of people killed, identical. A lot of similarities, but that's where the similarities end. And once again, West Tennessee, I have a meme, I think, that addresses that pretty well and summarizes just how a lot of people felt. This is from one of our viewers. People in Nashville ignoring Memphis' suffering. So, Susan, let me ask you on this. Does Bill Lee deserve some criticism here? He hasn't even made a site visit to see what the situation is, and the best he's done so far is say, we're going to look in to have a damage assessment, but we're not anywhere closer to a disaster declaration.
You're going to have to repeat that question, Richard.
Just does Governor Bill Lee deserve some of the criticism he's getting for his response or lack of response to this crisis here?
Well, I think his lack of response is shameful. I mean, Bill Lee he's a native Memphian practically. I mean, he spent most of his childhood here. He should remember us once in a while. But I got to weigh in with something else, Richard. You can talk about fixing the so-called infrastructure all you want and taking power lines and burying them underground. I frankly live in an area where my power lines go from poles underground to another pole. But if you want to spend $3 billion on putting power lines underneath the ground, go ahead. It's not the panacea we think it is. But why don't you, instead of spending $5 million last year on cutting the trees, spend $10 million next year cutting the trees? My argument would be is if MLG&W had ramped up its tree trimming program when it should have, that 140,000 people who are out, probably half of those wouldn't have gone out.
Otis, I'll let you have the final word on this.
Well, and to the point about the governor, and you know, I'm critical of the governor when he needs to be criticized, and he needs to be criticized here. He is showing a lack of empathy, a lack of caring, and really just sort of thumbing his nose almost at Memphis. He needs to come here, he needs to be here this week and show that he cares about West Tennessee and the people who live here.
Well, we're making so much progress cleaning up the mess, there's not much of a damage to see at this point. He's waited long enough. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about the ouster of Senator Katrina Robinson, state senator from Memphis, in just a minute.
Insurance companies lie and try to cheat you, saying they can't pay you for all you lost, even though it was their client who injured you in that tractor-trailer wreck. That's why attorney Mike Montesi should be your voice. Call 526-2126.
I love my job because I love customers. I love helping customers, making them happy. I just feel connected to them. When I can help them and they come back and they ask for me by name, and that's what makes me very happy. To me, that's a blessing that I got a chance to work at Kroger. They have more confidence in me than I have in myself. I'm Willie Mae. I've been at Kroger for 27 years, and I'm a deli bakery leader.
Injured? Call 683-7000 and let NST Strong help you get paid.
The new WW Personal Points program changed my life.
You look great.
No two plans are the same. You can even eat this and these in the same, not at the same time.
Join today for 50% off at WW.com. Hurry, offer ends February 14th.
Stay prepared with the Mid-South's most accurate forecast on the ABC24 News app.
After a tractor-trailer wreck, our next move is important. But what's our best option? Attorney Mike Montesi's always been part of our community. He makes lives better. Call Mike Montesi. You should not settle for less. 526-2126.
Got to talk about State Senator Katrina Robinson, former state senator. She was ousted, as we know, but this was the week where prosecutors came out and said this is what the sentence we're recommending, and they want as much as they can possibly get, including 2 of the convictions that were thrown out saying they do not appreciate her attitude, honestly, since she came out and was sentenced. They said that she's constantly painted herself as a victim and will not take any responsibility for what she did. She has called this whole procedure a procedural lynching, saying it was racist and discriminatory. Otis, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think obviously there's going to be some high contention going on when this goes to court for sentencing. I'm not that concerned about what the prosecutors say or what the defense lawyers say. I will be interested to see what the judge, Cheryl Lipman, does here. And if she gives former Senator Katrina Robinson a lot of time, it'll speak volumes about how seriously she thought this case was.
Okay, and the sentencing is in March. Susan, what's your quick take?
My take is that, well, I know it's old-fashioned in this day and time, but we elect people to hold the public trust, and I think that our elected officials should go overboard to make sure that they serve honorably in office. I think if I have any criticism, it's truly what the Republican state legislators did in the Senate to rush her into the front of the Senate and the stripper of her title. I thought the speed with which they did it and the manner in which they did it was embarrassing and shameful.
All right, Brad, I've got 15 seconds.
Yeah, Richard, I mean, I think it's another example. If you're a Democrat, you're saying that the Senate, Shelby County Democrats are getting picked on. You can also look at the fact that Senator Brian Kelsey, he's still facing federal charges, hasn't been adjudicated yet, but there's a lot of talk about a potential double standard with Democrats and Republicans in Nashville. Just one perspective from the Democrats.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks to my panel. Thanks to you at home for watching us this week. We'll see you next week for ABC24 This Week. Good night.
Sometimes insurance companies just refuse to pay injured folks. Attorney Mike Montesi helped my friend Ray with this tractor trailer wreck. Ray would never worry about money again. Montesi can help you too. Call 526-2126.
This is GMA3, what you need to know. GMA3.
A third hour of Good Morning America in the afternoon.
It's all about you. Lunchtime on ABC.
What you're about to experience here is special. What if I made the wrong choice coming here?
We need to stop and enjoy the moment.
Who got the power? Who got the power? Who got the power? We are Black Excellence.
We're chasing our legacy.
All-American Homecoming. New series premieres Monday, February 21st. Only on the CW.
When we're injured in a car or tractor-trailer wreck, it's shameful when the guilty driver's insurance just won't do what's right. So we got to do what's best for our future. And attorney Mike Montesi's on our side. Call 526-2126.
News happens fast. Stream it faster. ABC24 News is now on Roku and Fire TV. Stream live newscasts and watch on demand. ABC24 News, stream now on Roku and Fire TV.
One of these women is lying to my face.
This is so hard. Tears.
I made the wrong decision.